Do you feel that in a time when we are more connected than ever, we are drifting away from real human connection, especially to ourselves? I do. Hi, I'm Leticia Latino, and I want to invite you to join me and my very inspiring guests in exploring ways to reconnect to your essence, to your definite purpose, to what makes you tick. Are you ready? Hello, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of Back to Basics, Reconnecting to the Essence of You. My guest today is someone who lives at the crossroads of transformation and deep spiritual insights. Stephanie James is a transformation coach, psychotherapist, international speaker, filmmaker, and host of the Igniting the Spark podcast. With decades of experience helping people navigate change, she brings a powerful blend of clinical wisdom and soulful guidance. Her latest book, Your Big Fat Juicy Life and Everything After, invites us to reimagine how we live, how we love, and even how we face death. Stephanie's work is all about igniting resilience, purpose, and joy, and today she's here to help us ignite our spark. Hello, Stephanie, and welcome to Back to Basics.
Hello. So happy to be here with you.
Well, I'm excited. We connected through a mutual friend, and we were just gushing about Nina. So this is a shout out to you, and thank you for the connection. And I mean, there's so much even on your bio. First of all, congratulations. I mean, everything is just inspiring to read it. So I'm very excited when we have somebody that marries like the clinical science and then the spiritual world. Those are, to me, my favorite guests because it really resonates with me. And, this is Back to Basics. So I always like to start with the origin story, with you telling us a bit about the younger version of you before probably your transformation started. What was like the laying ground of younger Stephanie? What were you passionate about? What were your dreams when you were younger?
Well, I would tell you, Leticia, that as a younger woman or younger girl, I guess, I was always so aware of what you might say the miraculous in a way, which to me is I was always aware of what I call now the spark, that spark within us. And I write about it in my book, Your Big Fat Juicy Life, that from the age of probably 5 years old, I have a definite, vivid memory of standing in the basement of my parents' home. I'm looking at my grandmother's antique buffet that was down there. And the question came to my mind, oh, how did I come to be here? Like, I don't remember dying and I don't remember being born. And so the thought was, oh, that's because that never happens. It just keeps going. And so I really had this very profound awareness as a little girl. And I had a lot of experiences that affirmed that throughout my life, that this 3D reality wasn't the only one for us. So I did have an orientation that was maybe different in the world in that way. Some people.
It's interesting.
Yeah. And always being very connected to people and nature. And I will share with you too, though, even though I would have told you, and it's true that I had a really golden childhood, everything in my world was blown apart at age 13 when my father told my mother that he was in love with another woman. And this all came out, as my brother and I were in bed and we woke up to seeing, my mother's car screeching out of the driveway and my father jumping on the hood and, saying, get out of the car, get out of the car. And we had never seen our parents fight in front of us. We were such a close family. And so that breakup, if you will, became this huge source of pain in my life. And I think as we all know, we go through these difficult and challenging times. And then those can become the match point that ignites something within us that become our gift to the world.
That's very profound. Yeah, somebody once shared like we need suffering because it's what it's almost like a cleansing for the soul, and you have to touch real suffering for you to step up, your growth, your inner growth, your evolution. And I do say there must be something, because it's part of our life. It's an undeniable. It's going to come one way or the other, no matter how golden you have it. You might have it golden at the beginning, and then, but that it's, you don't hear anybody that goes through life experience and just say it was all great. And there was no suffering. Suffering is a big part of what we're here to experience, in my view.
Well, I think to go with what you're saying, I do feel like suffering is a part of it, in that there's a duality, because I also feel like profound joy is what that spark is within us. And so circumstances and situations sometimes feel like they cover that beautiful spark within us. So our work is really, how do we excavate that spark? How do we clear the cobwebs from the channel that is all the light and love that comes to us and through us back out into the world? So I think those are these essential pieces that we really do live in that duality. And if we let go of this moment having to be anything other than what it is, then we let go of suffering. It can be painful. It can be something that challenges us, but I don't think we have to suffer. And I think, I really am trying to change that paradigm, in that suffering, I think, is an archaic narrative that we have to suffer in order to grow. Are we going to experience painful things in this life? Absolutely. Are we going to experience profound joys and, these magical moments that take our breath away? Absolutely. So it's how we hold, in my experience, that duality that really can predict the well-being of our lives.
I think it's a very valid perspective. Yeah, I mean, it's nobody knows for real. It's why these experiences are all in the mix, right? But I totally agree with you, and with the duality, and it's just fascinating. So you went through this, of course, pain, and I mean, I read in your bio, psychotherapist, a filmmaker, so many things, which I love, because this podcast is about how do we stay connected to what makes us tick. I call that is similar to your spark, how we stay connected to our spark. And so from that early age, what was your path as you started, as you become an adult? I always try to establish these links, and you're the perfect example, because my other link that I establish is, I tell the young people, it's like, even if you choose a path, doesn't mean you have to stay there all the time. And that is a paradigm that I want to break. It's like, you are not married to what you choose to go, and then you can change it and you can transform it. So I think you're a perfect example of that. So
well,
would you share a little
you.
bit about that first stage, let's say, of life?
Yes, I love this so much, because we are so in alignment with this. Because my first year of college, I went to an art school in LA. I wanted to be a fashion designer, a fashion merchandiser, interior designer. Those were all the courses I was taking. And so when you say that, that's what I thought my life was going to be. And the following year, I had gotten into the Art Institute in London, and I thought that was going to be my career. Interestingly, this was 1986, and that summer, the American embassy was bombed in London. And so a friend of mine who was going to go to the school with me as well, both of our parents pulled us out and said, nope, that doesn't feel
That's not
safe.
happening.
We're not going to send you over there. And so that really changed the course of my life. And thankfully, I mean, honestly, thankfully so. I was modeling it in LA as well. And that can be a very fast life. We were very involved in the music scene. And I think if I would have kept going, who knows what would have happened. And instead, I came home and I met with a dear family friend who happened to be one of the psychologists in the psychology department at Colorado State University. And I'd known him since I was 13. So I come to him at 19 and I'm saying, hey, I don't know what to do with my life. I'm feeling like this isn't an option for me anymore. And he says, well, you're a natural at this. Like I've known you since you were a kid, and I can introduce you to the advisor. And it was like that meeting happened, and that was just it. I mean, it was just this fit for me. And so, as you said, it doesn't have, nothing's in concrete.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to school and then later to graduate school with that in mind. Like, I want to be in private practice. Like, I want to be an individual therapist and a couples therapist. But what's interesting is that took several iterations. I worked with, I was the cognitive behavioral program manager of this pilot program from Manhattan that came in, and for 3 years worked with paranoid schizophrenics. That's all I did all day, every day, in my career. And then switched. I worked for the school district for 10 years. And it was like, so this natural evolution of then now for almost 2 decades, I've been in private practice. And in the last 8 years, I guess it's been now, transformational coaching and filmmaking and writing books. And so, it just keeps expanding.
I love it. I love it because it's, I'm really excited when I see people that refuse, because I'm the same thing with my podcast and people I've shared this before. It's like I'm in telecom and people trying to make sense of where does that fit with your job, and it doesn't fit. That's the answer. It doesn't fit. I just like inspiring conversations, and that doesn't have to fit with what I do in my job. But that capability of just having different platforms, that fit in our soul through different mouths, so to speak. I just love that. And so in transformational coach, I mean, the fact that you embrace that part, I love it, because it's like, it's the work is there. It's almost basically, I imagine it's very similar, because that's when you go to practice, a doctor, somebody that helps you with what you're going through. It's similar, but to make an intentional point of, it's all about transformation, and this is okay, and being a coach, and there's a lot of meaning into that.
Well, it's so exciting. I love the duality in my profession as well. Actually, it's like a quadology. I have so many different hats, but I think as far as the psychotherapy and coaching goes, I'm a trauma specialist. So the differentiation for me is when people come in as a client for psychotherapy, we're working a lot on healing past wounds. We're healing on it's yes, how are you functioning today, but what do we need to heal in the past so you can move on? And transformational coaching is, here you are right now in a place where you're like, what can I ignite for myself in the future? How can I get rid of what's in my path now? Whether it's beliefs, behaviors, habits, what is keeping me from that expanded version of myself? So it's really beautiful to have that whole arc in watching people heal and transform and what they can create in their lives.
Absolutely. I must say, quite unique approach, because as we were sharing, we were going to talk about your podcast as well, but we share these, like we both have over 300 episodes. And I mean, I've interviewed a lot of people like that do similar things, but your approach is quite unique, and I love it. And it's a big differentiator in terms of just how you explain it. Like the psychotherapy applied to healing wounds from the past, but then the coaching, it's like forward looking. I think that's quite powerful. And so, you started the podcast, and then the book it's after the podcast, correct?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Okay. So, yeah.
Yeah. So tell us about like how this idea came up, because also you were, I have to say, like you started 7 years ago, the podcast. So you were one of the first ones, I would say, like more or less when I started too, like people doing podcasts weren't the celebrities and weren't the famous people. Like we had a moment there where we were doing something different, and the celebrities came as
right,
well.
Right.
But what sparked in you so that you wanted to do a podcast?
Well, so the podcast is really interesting because I've had so much incredible serendipity in my life and what I would call divine guidance in my life. And I was actually sitting in my psychotherapy office and I had the door cracked open and I was on a break and I was sitting there thinking, how do I get back into radio? Because I had been interviewed as a guest on
Mm.
a radio show in Colorado 3 different times. And it was so much fun. I thought, I love this. This is such a wonderful platform. And I am not kidding you. It was maybe 3 minutes after that thought that
Mm.
there's a knock on the door. And this gentleman comes in and he said, I work at the local radio station
Oh.
and he knew me from another client. That was the connection, that he knew someone that had been a client of mine. And he said, I'm just wondering if you would be interested in having your own show.
Oh my goodness. Wow, that's incredible.
And so he said, I about came out of my chair. I was like clapping and
That
just,
is
I was
incredible.
so excited. And so that's how it started. I took the training. You have to take all the training at the station and started there. And then when he left to create his own streaming station, I left with him. And
Mm.
so that's really how that happened. And as you know, I mean, then you start meeting these, at one point I was like, oh my goodness, I know some of the most incredible hearts and brilliant minds on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes. Yes.
from that, all these other things started happening with the
That's amazing.
films and with the books and with all these different creations. But it was really that spark of doing something outside of just the psychotherapy office.
I really like that. And I have to say that, yeah, there might be somebody in the audience like, yeah, well, I've had that thought, but the person didn't knock on my door and there's something else that has to happen. What would be your advice? Because it's, as you say, you had that divine guidance. You had the
Mm-hmm.
thought. Obviously, probably you're in incredible alignment because then it manifested right there, right? But what would you say for people that say, well, I don't have it that easy. I follow my intuition and I want to start this, I want to start that, but then it's hard to get it going.
Yes. So there's two things. I have two answers to that because part of it is, and I have to share just a tiny little story with you that
Sure.
goes with this. Because for me, one of the big catalysts and breakthroughs in my life happened in my early 30s.
Mhm.
And at that time, I was going to a Sufi school in San Francisco, which was a healing school to learn how to be even a clearer conduit for healing to come, to me
Mhm.
and through me. And that's what the school was about. And as I walked in the doors, I shook hands with Dr. Ibrahim Jaffe, who was our instructor. And as he shook my hand, I have to tell you, I had that feeling like, woo, he's looking right into my soul. It was
Mhm.
like, I'm like,
Okay.
okay. And so he goes up on stage, and there's about 40 of us there, and he's talking. And a little bit through his presentation, he says, hey, you in the blue coat, I have a message
Mm.
for you.
Oh my.
And I look around and I look around and I'm like, oh shoot, I'm the one in the blue coat. and he says the message and I can't hear him.
Mm.
And I look at, a girlfriend of mine who was sitting beside me and she just kind of like shrugs her shoulders. And so he says it again. I still can't hear him. The third time he repeats the message, all of the air conditioning units in the place come on and nobody can hear him. So
Oh,
now
wow.
everybody's laughing. And he said, my dear, you have such resistance to hearing this. Come up
Oh,
here.
wow.
Come up here
Wow.
so you can hear this message. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So I go up there and he's like, my dear, what you most need to hear and what's so hard for you to hear is stop trying.
Mm.
Stop trying. He said, you've been trying your whole life to be perfect for your father, and now you're trying to be perfect for your husband. How he knew this, I have no idea.
Mhm.
Um,
Wow, wow,
but
wow,
he
wow.
said, stop trying. And so there's a part that I think we can strive too hard. We can get too graspy. We think we have to earn love. We think we have to do something else outside of us to be happy, to be fulfilled. We all have these internal, or really they're external programs for happiness.
Mm-hmm.
And the message so profoundly was like, no, that's an inside job. So the
Mm.
invitation here is really to pause. There's so much power in the pause and to drop in and to really trust that internal voice, trust that you already are enough and you can get in touch with that as you go within. It's not just an idea, oh, okay, now I believe I'm enough. but that we don't have to do all this striving. And that actually sometimes when we're doing that grasping and that, oh my gosh, I have to have this, we're actually keeping it from moving into our lives.
That's a very powerful story and very powerful reflection. I think it's incredible. And stop trying. Yes, it just release. No, they say just release, pause. I like the it's an inside job. I actually did the inner MBA. I don't know if you've heard about it, but it's with Tammy Simon and Sounds True. And it was like, a lot of people focus on the outer game and we don't focus on the inner game. And even as an executive performing, like we go and learn these skills, this knowledge about, content knowledge. But then I love the branding, and that's why I enrolled. It's a 9-month program. It's inner MBA, and I just love the concept so much. And you think, what can you learn in 9 months? I mean, and all the content was so amazing. So yeah, I love that and the inside job as you describe it. That's incredible. So you will. So obviously, there's going to be an invitation to listen to your podcast because I've seen the kind of quality. I mean, people you've interviewed that are amazing. I love the book Conversations with God, and I know you've had Donald Walsh as part of that. Is anything? I mean, you have so many episodes. Any preference? I know it's very hard because you interview so many things, but what has surprised you the most about your podcast or doing the podcast? What has been maybe the gift that has given you?
I have received so many gifts from the podcast. I would say, though, the biggest is that so many people that I have had on my podcast have become dearest, dearest friends and part of a really intimate soul family where, I mean, we do events together, we've made films together, we go on vacation together.
That's great.
They have become, I can't even tell. It's such a blessing, now going into my 8th season of the podcast. It's like, oh my gosh, I've had so many of these people with me now for 7 years.
Wow,
And
that is incredible.
it's a joy. I mean, that is the deepest joy for me and gift.
Yeah, I think I can relate. It's the what you had describing intimate soul family and people that you connect with at a different level, and some of them you never have seen, in my case, in person. And yet we were talking about this before we started. It's like you feel like you've been friends and you help each other and you lift each other up. And sometimes it's almost like I'm getting more out of these friendships that of your life friendships that you still want there, but maybe they're in a different journey, on different path, and you cannot connect at the level you're in right now in your own journey. So it's almost like what Seth Godin calls finding your tribe kind of thing. Like once you
Yes.
find the tribe that people, and this is one of the advice I leave all the listeners to, like, if you like music, go find the tribe, go find the people that like what you like. And that's just going to bring more light. If you like reading, go find that book club. I mean, once you insert yourself in the midst of people that have the same passion and that get ignited by the same spark, then magic starts happening because now this is the energy you're surrounding with. I don't know if you agree with me on that.
100%. Leticia, I feel like that is exactly what we were just talking about. When you go within and you really acknowledge, I don't have to be someone else. I don't have to like what other people like. I want to listen to that inner calling. I want to listen and feel into what is my passion. What
Mhm.
does light me up? And that's not going to be the same for all of us. I mean, thank God. That's the beautiful part is each person, each one of your listeners holds this beautiful spark within them. And so to really tap into that, and it's as, truly, it's as easy as being quiet, put down the phone, stop the distraction, start tuning in. And
Mhm.
so I really invite people to do that, to like, what is it? And sometimes we have to go back to what we did as a child. Sometimes we
Mhm.
have to think, what was it where I was in a state of flow or in a playful state? What lit me up? And when we start doing that, we can recapture like, whoa, that was something, I loved dancing or music, or I loved cooking or creating, whatever that is. And so we start making that a part of our lives. And I think the other thing too that I really tell people is, and I love what you said, following your passion, following what lights you up. It doesn't always have to be your career though.
Mm-hmm.
It's like,
Mm-hmm.
yes, our purpose, I think we have more than one.
Mm-hmm.
I think our greatest purpose is to show up as love
Mm-hmm.
in the many,
Beautiful.
many iterations that takes, whether it's your exchange with a barista or the person that's helping you with groceries, or, and I always say, and also the person that cuts you off in traffic. It's
Mm-hmm.
how you are being kind, how you are putting that love out into the world, and knowing that as you're kind to yourself, and part of being kind to ourselves is being a priority in our own lives and taking that time, not at the exclusion of others, but to take the time to tune in and say, what nurtures my soul? How do I best take care of me today? How can I best tap into creativity, to connection?
Mm. Well,
And
that's
that becomes our soul food.
I love. Well, this is why, Nina, you are the best because you always guide me through the best guests. I mean, she knows like what you just said is why you're an incredible guest for Back to Basics because that's really like prompting people to think about this, prompting people to say it's as easy as just stopping and just connecting. And what you said, it's actually because sometimes after so many episodes, I always start with asking, what were you passionate about when you were a child because of what you said? Because I think it's in us and in so many interviews, it has shown up like, well, yeah, and then I went this way, and then I ended up doing what I enjoyed doing when I was younger. Some form of it has
Mhm.
always been present most of the time. So it's an invitation to think for the listeners, what were you passionate about? What you miss that you don't have right now in your life? And I'm sure that obviously writing, you don't write a book unless you're somehow passionate about sharing content, writing. So, I love the name of your book because it's provocative and your big, fat, juicy life and everything after. So, I'm very curious about listening to how you came up with the name and how the book came to life.
Well, thank you so much. It's interesting that you named Neil Donald Walsh as one of the
Mhm,
guests on my show because it was a year ago in March that I was interviewing him, and
mhm.
we got on the call and we were recording. We could not get to the interview. We were having the most fun, just connecting conversation
Yeah.
and just laughing and diving deep. And it was just this beautiful connection. And about 20 minutes into it, you see Neil Donald Walsh. I mean, I still have this on video.
Mhm.
It's like he gets this download and he says, he just stops our conversation and says, Stephanie, you're going to write your next book and you're going to
Oh,
start tomorrow morning.
oh my
And
goodness.
this
Oh
book is
wow.
going to have a global impact and I'm going to endorse this book. So,
Wow.
I just had to laugh. And of course, we all talk to God. But my joke was, yeah, when the man who talks to God tells you you're going to write a book, you write the book. you know, I,
Absolutely. When the guy that wrote the conversations we got, three of them, as far
yeah,
as I know,
yeah.
like tells you this. OMG, what a highlight. Amazing.
Yes, yes. And so it was interesting. The original title of the book that he thought the title would be I'm dying to tell you about death. Although the book is really about life and death wasn't the main piece of it. And so when we were marketing the book, my agent and I, she called me one day and she said, right now the world is so tough. Nobody wants to read another book about death. And yet this book isn't about death. It's about how truly, number one, it's about life and how to live, by embracing the totality of our lives, which we were just talking about, both the beautiful, incredible, expansive parts and the grief and the loss and those other things, how we can create this, big, fat, juicy life for ourselves.
Mm,
And the everything after is knowing that this is not it, that death is not the end of the story. It's just the next chapter in our book of
mm,
eternity. And
mm,
so when we can befriend death, and that's really what I call it, when we can befriend death as not being the end, then it actually helps us move into the present moment. And the present moment is sacred. This is where
mm,
all creativity comes from. And when we let go of that fear, we're able to truly step into this moment. And so as my agent called me and was telling me this, like, this is not what publishing houses, that title just isn't working. And she goes, it needs to be something that someone 22 or someone 82, that they can relate to, that they can feel it. And it was just like, I just almost said it jokingly, but I just said, I think it's supposed to be your big, fat, juicy life and everything
Uh,
after. And she was like, oh my gosh, that's it.
that's
That's it.
I love it. Yeah, no, no. It's one of those that you see it and say, yeah, this is meant to be a book that had to be written because, yeah, you see others and it's good, but this one, it's almost divine titled. So
Thank
well done.
you.
And so I'm going to read it. I haven't read it. I know death. How the idea of connecting with death, but you going through losing somebody or how did that? Because I know that that's part, even in the research I did about the book, this is it's a part, it's a big part of the book in terms of also how you promote it. So I'm curious about that part.
Well, so yeah, so what's really interesting is, and I want to share this because it speaks to your question. This book came through in a little under 6 weeks. I wrote it in a little under 6 weeks. My first two books, The Spark, Igniting Your Best Life, and Becoming Fierce, were both written 9 months each, like gestating a baby. It just was this big
Hmm.
process.
Hmm.
And when this book came through, all of a sudden I had people contacting me that wanted to be a part of the book, like Wayne Dyer's daughter, Sage. And I interview Sage and we're talking. And then she's like, oh my gosh, you've got to meet my mom, Marceline. I think she needs to be in the book. And then speaking with Ariel Ford and Suzanne Giesman
Hmm.
and Academy Award winning producer Stephen Simon, who
Hmm.
won the Academy Award for the film What Dreams May Come.
Yeah,
All
yeah,
of
yeah.
these people, and their stories are woven throughout, but my own story as well. And I guess I'll share with you just a quick story from the book. There's all different kinds, but
Hmm.
there's lots of stories that help us deal. I have a chapter on growing through grief. There's
Hmm.
chapters on the divine spark within. I mean, all these different
Hmm. Hmm.
chapters to help inform us. And I do want to say to your listeners too, what I love about this book is the end of every chapter is a tapping in section. So whatever we've been talking about, whatever we've been speaking about, you'll find there exercises, meditations, journaling
Oh,
prompts
beautiful.
at the end of every chapter to help each reader assimilate it into their own life so that they're
Mm.
incorporating the skills, they're able to have reflection points, they're able to grow from the experience. So there's a story though in the book called The Gift of Flight. And that story really had to do with a couple years ago when I was driving with a friend on Highway 80 in the middle of Wyoming. I say in the middle of nowhere land. And as we were driving, this huge golden eagle was being chased by these other birds. And of course, it caught our attention and it was happening right in front of us as we were driving. And then all of a sudden, that golden eagle, bam, hits the side of a semi truck and plummets to the ground.
Mm.
And so my friend I was driving with screeches on the brakes. I mean, so fast that my full latte like just sprays onto the front windshield. And we
Oh my.
skid back and we go over to this bird. And I mean, it was on the side of the road. I had never seen a bird this big and this majestic in my life. And its right wing was out to the side and its left foot was out in front of it and its head was down and blood was coming from its beak. And we thought, oh my
Mm.
God, this bird's dying. And my heart was so broken. And I said, we've got to get a hold of someone. We've got to get a hold of the forestry ranger or someone. And so he goes back to the truck and he's trying to find someone. And I'm just looking at this gorgeous bird and thinking, oh my goodness, what did this bird experience this morning? Being up there in the sky among, the clouds
Mhm.
and the sunshine on its wings and just seeing again, just the beauty of this bird. It was so incredible. And my friend came back and he said, I got a hold of a ranger. They said it's going to be an hour and a half till they get here. So he's like, they know where the bird is. I know you have a huge schedule. Do you want to just leave? And I just started crying. I was just like,
Mm.
I'm not leaving that bird. I'm not
Oh.
leaving. And so I sat in the truck and we're waiting for the ranger to come. And I was just praying and holding space for this bird and just sending it love and just like, everything's okay. It's going to
Mm.
be okay. And every so often I'd go out of the truck and check on the bird.
Mhm.
And it was so interesting. I mean, about half an hour in, I mean, I'm just praying solid and just sending this energy solid. The bird tucks in one wing, tucks in its leg, and lifts up its head and just
Oh.
looked right at me. And it was like that moment of soul connection where I was like, oh my gosh, and so again, I'm sending it just pure love and just like love, love, love. And my friend is like, oh my gosh, keep praying because whatever you're doing, it's working. Although he said his hunch was because the bird wasn't getting up, that it was probably internally bleeding,
Mm.
and so still to
Mm.
just that and just keep it was just like honoring just the beauty of this bird, just knowing every single life is so sacred.
Mhm.
So eventually, yes, the ranger shows up and I'm hearing he and my friend speak. I'm in the truck but the window's down, I can hear them speak, and the ranger says, well, we're going to be able to save this bird's life, if you help me, we'll get this coat around the bird. He'll be in captivity the rest of his life, but at least he'll be alive.
Oh my. Oh
And
wow.
it was as if the bird heard him say that. And this eagle jumped to its feet and spread out this 6 feet of
Oh my God.
wingspan and whoosh went up into the sky and circled around the truck once and then went up into the hills until we
Oh
just
my
saw it
goodness.
as like a speck of sand in the sky.
Wow.
And
Well,
it was like, I just looked at everyone. I'm like, we have just witnessed a miracle. It was like the death and resurrection of this bird that really, I felt that bird's heart within my own. Like within
mm,
that place, we are all one and we are
mm.
all free.
Oh my goodness. I have goosebumps hearing to this story and so beautiful. And I think we are all one. This is what stays with me. We are all one, humans, animal, any human, anything living, including the trees. I think that we have taken for granted, God's creation and the way we interact with each other, all species. So what an incredible story, my God! That you have like 7 other books in you at least because you have so many good stories. I definitely will buy your book because it's just, I mean, it's special to hear it first, told as you just shared. But I'm sure that the feelings and emotions that I will get from reading it will be completely different. So thank you for sharing that, Stephanie. I love the fact that I'm a firm believer that anything you can make the impossible possible. Like I've always said, if I can do something that for people seem impossible and turn it into possible, like, again, to go to the podcast, like I've had guests, I had Seth Godin be my 100th guest, and it seemed impossible, honestly, that he would say yes. And the fact that he did, and then people getting inspired by that saying, how did you get here? He said, I just asked. And then he said yes. And those stories, just like the one you share, like something that doesn't seem possible to happen, but that through prayer, through good energy, through just tapping into your spiritual uh, side and potential, we can make so much more possible than what we're doing.
Yes, yes. And I think it's so important too to speak to your listeners and say, you and I, yes, we're special and we're not special.
Mhm,
Everyone is special and we're not
mhm.
special. Every
Yes.
single person listening can tap into this within them, can tap
Yes.
into the miraculous because it really
Mm.
is us.
I love that for a book name, Tap into the Miraculous. There you go, when you
Ooh.
talk to your publisher.
Okay. I love that.
Tap into the miraculous. I love it. Well, I already know I could keep talking for hours, but, I always like to give the guest an opportunity to highlight anything that we maybe haven't touched upon. We haven't even talked. I'm curious about the filmmaker. I mean, there's so many things I'm curious about. Is there any special initiative, project, things that you're working on that we haven't touched upon that you want to highlight?
Well, I could just, I could point people to humanitiesteam.org where they
Mhm.
can watch more of my content. My first film, When Sparks Ignite, is there. And also What We Need to Know Now, Living Wisdom. Um, Gosh, now I'm just spacing on the title. Um,
We'll have it on the show notes.
yeah,
I
okay,
have all the
okay, yeah,
links
yeah,
you've
yeah.
shared, so we will put it
But
on the
there's
show
several
notes.
programs on there that I think are inspirational. And my main point for people to hear is really it's on the front of my poster for When Sparks Ignite. And
Mhm.
it says your period healing period matters, period. Because
Mm,
each one of us are those essential golden threads in the tapestry of humanity. And so
mm,
it does matter. It's the vibration that you're contributing to the whole that matters. And so
mm,
when we get that, it's like, wow, our healing really is essential. And there's never an arrival point. There's not one of us, no matter how big someone's platform is or how much money they make or what, they're
mhm,
doing in the world. We still are all growing. There's no arrival point. We're all still healing. And so
mm,
to know that wherever you're at right now, that healing begins in this moment. And you don't have to ever be complete. I don't think we get there in this lifetime.
mm,
So to just
mm,
have hope that just having the desire to continue to allow that light within you to be revealed, to uncover that, as we said, to excavate that spark that is in
mm.
each one of us, that's the light I think we're meant to shine and share with the world.
So much wisdom. Thank you. Thank you so much, Stephanie. And I mean, incredible. It's been a treat for me, this conversation. My last question on every single interview is about what makes you tick in those moments where you are challenged to find your own spark, because we all know we all have them. And there's either a ritual, a habit, prayer. What is it that allows you to resource your soul to where you need to be to keep inspiring the way you do?
Truthfully, I would say, well, there's, I could say lots of practices, but, really think of the number one thing for me, because I've
Mhm.
meditated for 28 years. I journal, I do all those things that I think that we
Mhm.
know are helpful. My big thing is sky time.
Mm.
And
Oh,
it
I
doesn't
love that.
matter what the weather is. It is so important to me to go outside, and there's always something happening in the sky, right? And it
Mm,
connects me to that deeper sense of God, we're part of this miraculous energy that is all
mm,
around us. And that's where I feel like I can really access source and remember it is me,
mm,
and yet it's all around me and holding me. And so,
mhm,
whatever's going on, if I allow myself that sky time, whether it's a walk or whether it's sitting on a bench, sometimes at night, I love to sit. I have a stone bench right in front of my courtyard, and I'll sit there. And I am so blessed. I live in the country on 5 acres.
mm,
So there's no
okay.
noise, there's no
Mm,
lights. And I just
mm,
look up at that night sky with all the stars.
mm,
And it's so I'm breathing that in, that resources my soul. And so I invite people, that's something, whether you live in the city, whether you live in the country, it's always available to us. And even
mm,
on a cloudy day, I always love the feeling of when I'm flying, breaking through the clouds. And I know that
me
no matter
too.
how cloudy it is, the sun is always shining.
Well, thanks for that, because you made me realize sky time makes me tick too. Like I never like really put it as one of the things, but you're saying, and I would say sea time, and usually it comes with the sky time. So where there's
Yes.
water, I tick even stronger. But
Yes.
like you have always been a stargazer, like always looking for answers. Like you see the sky and you try to look for your answers, and that it's like a prompt or a call to action in a way. But thank you. You made me realize that's something that I do, and I look into even out of my office. I just look and stare at the clouds, and that's
Mm.
very powerful. We find the simplest things makes us tick. And even for somebody that has done asked this question 300 times, it just made me realize of one of the ones that made me tick that I have taken for granted. So thank you so much, Stephanie, for that. I know this episode will be, one of my fans' favorites because it's just so full with wisdom. So thank you for inspiring us today.
Thank you so much. Such an honor to be here with you.
Likewise. And to you out there, thank you for joining. And until the next episode of Back to Basics, keep ticking, my friends. Bye bye. You've been listening to Back to Basics.
You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook. If you haven't yet, subscribe, rate, and review this podcast on Apple Podcast or any of your favorite streaming platforms. This is the best gift you can give us. Join me next week for another Back to Basics conversation. And if you want to find out about other exciting things I'm working on, visit leticialatino.com. Thank you, and until the next time.